Your mind never stops talking. At night, you replay conversations. At work, you imagine what others are thinking about you. On your phone, you scroll endlessly because silence feels unbearable. You analyze, you obsess, you spiral. Yet the harder you think, the less peace you feel. This is the tragedy of overthinking. It promises clarity, but it delivers chaos. It convinces you that if you just keep running mental circles, you'll finally be safe. But the truth, overthinking is not protection, it's prison. It keeps you trapped in imagined futures, stuck in past regrets, disconnected from the present moment where life actually happens. The Stoics saw this over 2,000 years ago. They lived in a world filled with chaos, war, politics, betrayal. Yet they discovered an inner fortress that no storm could touch, inner silence. The power to master thought, not be mastered by it. And today, we can reclaim it. 10 ancient laws, 10 timeless antidotes, 10 ways to silence the noise and master your mind. Every generation thinks its problems are new, but overthinking, this disease of the restless mind, is not unique to us. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with sleepless nights, Seneca with intrusive doubts, Epictetus with the endless what ifs of fate. They lived in a world without notifications, social media, or 24-hour news. Yet still, the same human trap existed, the mind inventing suffering that reality had not delivered. The Stoics didn't preach the elimination of thought. They preached mastery of it. Thought is a tool, they said, not a tyrant. Use it well and you build empires of calm. Use it poorly and you destroy yourself from within. This video is not about quick fixes or surface-level hacks. It's about something deeper. 10 Stoic laws, practices forged in hardship, tested across centuries, that train the mind to obey you, not betray you. If you feel trapped in cycles of worry, analysis, and doubt, then stay. Because what follows could change not just how you think, but how you live. Law 1. Separate what you can control from what you cannot. The first law is the foundation of Stoicism, and the greatest antidote to overthinking. Ask yourself, is this within my control or not? Overthinking thrives in the gray zone. You worry about how others perceive you, whether tomorrow will go as planned, or if that decision you made last week was good enough. The mind loops endlessly because it's trying to solve problems it has no power to solve. Epictetus drew the line clearly. Some things are up to us, others are not. That's it. Your judgments, choices, actions, yours. The weather, the market, the past, the opinions of strangers, not yours. The problem is we flip this equation, obsessing about externals while neglecting our own response. When you practice this law, you instantly cut the fuel supply to overthinking. The thought comes, what if I fail? You answer, the outcome isn't mine, but my effort is. The thought comes, what if they don't like me? You answer, their mind isn't mine to govern. This law doesn't make life easy. It makes it clay. Imagine 2 boxes on a table. One box labeled mine, the other labeled not mine. Every anxious thought, every worry, every restless scenario, you drop it into the right box. Then you walk away from the second box. Freedom begins the moment you accept this distinction. Not total control of life, but mastery of yourself. And once you master yourself, no storm outside can shake the silence within. Law 2. Silence the inner judge. If Law 1 was about separating control, Law 2 is about silencing the harshest voice in your life, your own. Most people think overthinking comes from the outside, from deadlines, relationships, money. But the Stoics knew better. The loudest critic, the most relentless doubter, the cruelest enemy is the inner judge. The voice that whispers, "You're not enough. You're behind. You should have done more." Marcus Aurelius faced this voice every morning. In his meditations, he reminded himself that people would slander him, fortune would test him, but the real danger was his own mind turning against him. That is why he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoic answer is radical. Observe the voice. Don't obey it. Treat it like a stranger walking beside you, muttering nonsense. You wouldn't hand over your life to a heckler on the street. So why surrender to the heckler in your head? Here's the practice. When the judgment comes, "I failed. I embarrassed myself. I can't handle this." Don't fight it. Don't feed it. Label it. That's a judgment, not reality. Then return to action. Seneca warned that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And most of that imagined suffering is scripted by the inner judge. The world is hard enough without us being our own executioner. When you silence the judge, or at least stop taking its verdicts as truth, you create a pocket of calm, a silence where decisions can be made rationally, without the poison of self-condemnation. Overthinking loses its grip because the critic has been dismissed. Law 3. Anchor yourself in the present. Overthinking almost always lives in two places, the past and the future. You replay what you should have done. You imagine what could go wrong tomorrow. Back and forth, never hey. The Stoics knew this trap well. That's why Marcus Aurelius warned, confine yourself to the present. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. The past is untouchable. The future is unpredictable. The present is actionable. But here's the problem. Our minds don't like silence. They like drama. They run simulations. They revisit regrets. They draft imaginary conversations. And each time we indulge them, the grip of overthinking tightens. Anchoring yourself in the present is not denial. It's power. Epictetus said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen." That mindset forces you into now. This breath, this step, this choice. When the loop begins, ask, what is in front of me right now? What can I do right now? That's the Stoic pivot. Suddenly the fog clears, and the endless storm of what ifs shrinks into one question. What action is possible in this moment? Think of an anchor in rough seas. The waves still crash, the wind still howls, but the ship doesn't drift. Your present moment awareness is that anchor. Without it, you're tossed around by imagination. With it, you stand unshaken in reality. The cue to overthinking isn't more thinking. It's presence. And presence, practiced daily, builds the inner silence you crave. Accept fate without resistance. Nothing fuels overthinking more than resistance. Something happens. You miss the flight, lose the deal, get rejected, and instead of moving forward, you replay it, question it, curse it. Why me? What if I had done this? What if I had done that? Hours, days, years vanish in loops of if only. The Stoics called this resistance useless suffering. They offered a sharper weapon, a more fati, the love of fate. Don't just tolerate what happens, embrace it. Seneca said, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." The moment you resist reality, you tie yourself to the back of the cat, dragged through the dirt. Accept it, and you walk with dignity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That is the Stoic stance. Turn every obstacle into fuel. Instead of overthinking what could have been, you ask, how can I use this? How can I grow from this? Acceptance is not passivity, it's clarity. When you accept what cannot be undone, the mind goes quiet. Overthinking dissolves because there's nothing left to debate. The event is over. The only question is, what will I do next? Think of life like wrestling. You can resist every move, flail, and exhaust yourself. Or you can accept the momentum, flow with it, and turn it to your advantage. The Stoic doesn't waste energy on the impossible. They conserve strength for the possible. When fate delivers loss, rejection, delay, don't drown in why. Anchor yourself in what now. This shift ends the spiral, breaks the loop, and restores your power. Overthinking dies in the presence of acceptance. Because once you stop arguing with reality, your mind has nothing left to fight. Silence follows. Law 5. Master the art of distinguishing control. Overthinking thrives on confusion. Confusing what you can influence with what you can't. You sit awake at night, replaying someone's opinion of you. You analyze a stranger's reaction. You predict tomorrow's outcomes. And still, none of it bends to your will. Epictetus gave us the cure in the very first line of his Enchiridion. Some things are in our control and others are not. That's it. The razor. The line that cuts through endless loops. When your mind begins to spiral, pause and ask, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release. Simple, but not easy. Our egos cling to the illusion of control, pretending we can rewrite the past or forecast every future. This is where silence dies and suffering begins. The Stoic flips the script. You cannot control your reputation, but you can control your character. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your response. You cannot control how long you live, but you can control how you live today. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice what he did not say. He didn't say power comes from outcomes, from applause, from fortune. He said it lives inside your choices, your judgments, your actions. The truth is, 90% of overthinking comes from obsessing over things that never belonged to us in the first place. Other people's thoughts, random chance, outcomes beyond our reach. When you release them, the mind becomes lighter, freer, quieter. Picture yourself carrying two buckets, one filled with what you control, one with what you don't. Every time you pour energy into the wrong bucket, it vanishes, gone. But when you pour energy into the right one, your effort, discipline, perspective, it compounds into strength. Overthinking ends when you master this distinction. The discipline of control is the discipline of freedom. Law 6. Rehearse adversity before it arrives. Why do we overthink? Because we're terrified of what might happen. We imagine loss, rejection, failure. Then we spin endless scenarios trying to outthink fate. But the Stoics had a practice that dissolved this anxiety. Premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca wrote, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. In other words, prepare your mind. Visualize the setback. Walk through the loss. Imagine the storm, not to scare yourself, but to train yourself. When you rehearse adversity, two things happen. First, fear shrinks. You've already lived the blow in your mind. You've survived it. Second, gratitude grows. By imagining life without comfort, health, or fortune, you learn to appreciate them now, while they are still here. Modern people avoid these thoughts. We bury them. We hope if we ignore them, they'll never arrive. But that's a lie. Life is unpredictable. Fortune is fickle. The person who refuses to face this is doomed to panic when difficulty comes. The Stoic does the opposite. They say, what if I lost my job? What if I was insulted? What if death knocked today? And then they answer calmly, I would still endure. I would still choose virtue. Think of an athlete training with weighted gear. The real game feels lighter. That's what mental rehearsal does for the soul. By practicing loss, you become ready for it. By picturing rejection, you stop fearing it. By facing death, you learn to live. Overthinking thrives on the unknown. But when you've already rehearsed the worst, the unknown loses its teeth. You stop spinning in panic and start acting with quiet strength. As Marcus Aurelius put it, don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace. The one who rehearses adversity in silence walks calmly through storms that would destroy others. Law 7. Anchor yourself in the present moment. Overthinking is rarely about now. It is almost always about then or later. The mistake you made yesterday. The decision you must make tomorrow. The 1,000 what ifs that may never arrive. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, battled this same disease of thought. His solution, brutally simple: confine yourself to the present. Think about it. Most suffering isn't real. It's memory replayed or imagination projected. The present moment is often bearable, even calm. But we abandon it, trading it for shadows of the past and fantasies of the future. That's when the mind spirals. Anchoring yourself to the present doesn't mean ignoring the future or forgetting the past. It means refusing to live anywhere else but here. Your breath, your task, this step, this conversation, this moment. When you bring the mind back to now, you strip overthinking of its fuel. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Isn't that true? You rehearse the awkward conversation 100 times. You imagine 7 ways it could go wrong. And yet, when it actually happens, it lasts minutes, far less dramatic than the storm you conjured in your head. The Stoics used grounding techniques long before we gave them modern names. Slow breathing, attention to the body, observation of nature. Every practice brought them out of mental noise and back into the living present. Try it yourself. The next time your thoughts race, pause. Look at something ordinary, a tree, your own hands, the air moving in and out of your lungs. Ask, is there a problem in this exact moment, right now? Almost always, the answer is no. The problem lives in the mind, not the present. To live anchored is to live light. Decisions become clearer. Fears shrink. Overthinking dissolves. You realize the only moment you can ever act, ever live, ever be, is this one. Control the present, and you control your mind. Drift from it, and the mind controls you. Law 8. Accept what you cannot control. At the core of all overthinking lies one poisonous illusion, that if we worry enough, replay enough, imagine enough, we can control the uncontrollable. Epictetus shattered this lie with a single truth. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Everything else flows from that division. Think about the hours you've lost obsessing over outcomes. Will they like me? Will I succeed? What if I fail? What if they betray me? You burn yourself alive with questions that have no answer because they depend on forces outside your command. The Stoics taught that to overthink uncontrollables is madness. To accept them is freedom. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his meditations echo the same reminder. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Even the emperor knew he could not bend fate, only his response to it. So the Stoic law is clear. Master the boundary. Beyond it, let go. Within it, act. You cannot control the weather, but you can control your preparation. You cannot control others' opinions, but you can control your character. You cannot control fortune, but you can control your effort. This law is not resignation, it is redirection. Instead of scattering your energy on impossibilities, you channel it into what is truly yours. Thought, action, virtue. That is where peace is born. Overthinking dies when you stop trying to predict tomorrow's tide and instead row your boat today. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, act decisively. If no, release it completely. That single question, practiced daily, can silence the loudest storms of the mind. Acceptance is not weakness. It is strength at its highest form, because the person who accepts fate cannot be broken by it. And in that acceptance, the mind finally rests. Law 9. Embrace silence as power. Noise is the fuel of overthinking. Every notification, every comment, every headline, every whisper of gossip clutters the mind until it drowns in its own chaos. The Stoics knew this long before the modern world turned distraction into a business. Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Where does imagination run wild? In silence that is untrained, filled with noise. But when silence is embraced deliberately, it becomes the most powerful weapon against overthinking. The modern person fears silence. We rush to fill it with music, chatter, scrolling, endless consumption. But silence is where clarity hides. It is in silence that Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations, where Epictetus trained his mind, where wisdom takes shape. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of strength. It's the ability to sit still with your thoughts and not be consumed by them. To watch them pass like clouds without chasing, clinging, or fighting. Overthinking collapses when you create deliberate pockets of quiet. A Stoic might begin the morning without a phone, just breath and thought. They might walk without headphones, letting the mind breathe. They might end the day in reflection, not distraction. This is not withdrawal from life. It is mastery of life. The person who cannot be still is a slave to their mind. The person who embraces silence owns it. When you stop running from silence, you stop running from yourself. And suddenly, the endless noise in your head begins to fade. Decisions become simpler. Worries lose their grip. You discover that peace was never missing. It was buried under noise. So, practice the law. Guard moments of silence as you would guard treasure. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. The person who can sit still with their own mind, calm, centered, unshaken, has already defeated overthinking. Scales Law 10. Remember memento mori. Death ends overthinking. The mind loops because it believes it has endless time. We imagine tomorrow, next week, next year, projecting worries into an infinite horizon. But the Stoics cut through this illusion with one sharp truth. Memento mori. Remember you will die. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Death is not morbid. It is clarifying. When you face the reality of your mortality, what once consumed your thoughts shrinks into nothing. Will people's opinions matter when you are gone? Will that email, that missed opportunity, that awkward conversation, or will the true tragedy be that you wasted your brief existence on meaningless overthinking instead of living? Death silences the noise. It strips away the trivial and reveals the essential. The Stoic who remembers death is free, not reckless, but precise. They choose virtue over vanity, presence over distraction, courage over fear. When you live with death in mind, you stop rehearsing every possible future and start acting in the present. You realize that the mind's endless spinning does not protect you from fate. It only robs you of today. The law is not to obsess over death, but to remember it enough that your mind is anchored in reality. Life is short, fragile, fleeting. Overthinking cannot change that, but it can make the little time you have miserable. So, take the Stoic path. Let death remind you to think less, live more, and meet each moment as if it were your last. Because one day, it will be. You began this video with an overthinking mind, trapped in cycles of doubt, worry, and noise. Now, you hold 10 Stoic laws, forged in the fires of ancient struggle, proven across centuries. These are not abstract ideas. They are practices. They are tools. They are freedom. The question is, will you use them? Most people will nod, agree, maybe even feel inspired, and then do nothing. But Stoicism demands more. It demands practice, action, discipline. So here is your challenge. Pick one law, just one. Apply it today. Refuse to worry about what you cannot control, or embrace silence, or remember death. Do not wait. Do not think about it endlessly. Act. If this message struck you, join our community of modern Stoics. Like this video. Leave a comment about the law you'll practice first. Share it with someone who needs silence in their mind. And subscribe, because this is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning. The Stoics said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Waste no more time overthinking. Be free. Live Stoic."